And in 1982, Yayo ended up getting arrested for a gun, having burglary tools. And how much time did he do for that? Do you know?
He did 8 months.
8 months.
At Rikers. So, in Rikers, if you're doing less than a year, if you're charged, you either go there for awaiting a sentence or you're doing less than a year. So he did his 8 months at Rikers and he was right back home. Okay. That was and interestingly enough, that was the only prison time. Well, it's not even prison. It's the only incarceration time he did in the United States in his entire career. 8 months.
It's amazing.
Wild.
It's amazing, especially we'll get into the level he was at in a bit. So he sold. He first started calling his crack baseballs.
Baseballs, yeah.
I'm assuming because he's Dominican. He was really into baseball as well.
That's interesting. That's an interesting concept, but that could have been a triple entendre for all I know. But I know that it was based, BASED, was because of freebase. Right? So freebasing, what they called, before crack, they freebased cocaine, which meant they added ether, which is a flammable chemical that separated the additives from cocaine, and then you had to light it with a torch. It was you're playing with fire, literally, and there was a lot of explosions.
Yeah.
You remember Richard Pryor? Mm-hmm. He had a freebasing accident, burned his hair, his head, everything. He's the most well-known accident. But it was baseballs was officially comes from the term freebase. But like you said, based balls. Maybe he really was a baseball fan.
Yeah.
But it was catchy.
Speaking of baseball, there was a baseball store that was robbed in the neighborhood, and he had him and his crew run down on the robbers and beat them up.
He did at GW. And one of those robbers was, interestingly enough, one of the people in that gang. I don't know if he was specifically involved in the robbery. I don't think he was, but this gang was called the Royal Playboys, and they were a well-known youth gang in Washington Heights. And to come out of the Royal Playboys was Lenny Sepulveda, who became the leader of the Wild Cowboys gang in the South Bronx. So he was a big-time kingpin, right?
Okay.
So one of those men, it doesn't mention exactly who it was, but I did confirm the story happened. Somehow they found out it was this kid, and they went to George Washington High School. They saw him and his friends, and I don't even think they caught the actual kid that robbed them. They just caught one of his friends, and they gave him a beat down because they can't get to him. We'll get to somebody and teach him a lesson, right? Mm-hmm. And so, they hunted down the kids that crossed them. They were not the right people to cross.
No, and Yayo had like a very structured hierarchy of his drug operation. Yes. Could you get into that a little bit?
So I know people who know Yayo. I've been lucky to connect with some very, very in the know people, like I said before, right? So what I hear, what I already learned from my research and so on, and what they said, he's a very serious guy, not a man of many words, right, but very demanding, and he was a very, very demanding guy. He was very disciplined, right? Didn't drink, didn't smoke. He ran it with the hierarchy of Colombian cartels, what they call the pyramid structure, right? So you got the brand owner up here, got the mid-level managers. You got the street managers, and everyone is overseeing people below them. And what's interesting is that they keep it so you don't know anyone higher than one level above you. You insulate yourselves from the lower people just to protect the organization, right?
So you can't even snitch on me because you don't even know who I am.
You don't know who I am. You don't know who your street manager's working for. You don't know me, right? And is for however long a drug organization is capable of lasting, you say 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. The way Yayo did it was probably if you expect to last any amount of time, following his structure was probably the way to do it.
I saw something where he sent some of his goons to go burn down a rival's house.
Yeah.
What was that pertaining to? Why did he do that?
I couldn't get the specifics on that one, but the people he sent were Lenny and Nelson, who were the leaders of the Wild Cowboys. Lenny's older brother Nelson, and Lenny were first working for Yayo. Mm-hmm. They were brought on by Mike the Dome. His name is. He's Mike Santos, right? He runs his own podcast called the Heights Podcast. Shout out to him. He's the one that put on Lenny and Nelson, and they actually essentially worked for Mike, and but Mike worked for Yayo. So there was that insulation, but they were doing dirty work for Yayo. So they were selling vials, but they were also doing dirty work. I don't know the reason why they sent him to burn down the part. It was probably a production apartment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yayo, and maybe there was things that you found out afterwards. It didn't seem like his crew was very violent, at least compared to the Jerry Curls.
I agree.
The Jerry Curls sounded like they were just on another planet.
They were intoxicated with violence.
Yeah, so I mean, believe me, sending guys to go burn down a guy's house is pretty violent.
Yeah, well,
but
there's different levels to it.
Yeah, exactly. Was he Yayo involved in any murders that you know of? Or?
That I know of, he ordered several, but for the size and
several that went through.
He was charged with ordering 6 murders.
Okay.
And 6 murders, as crazy as it sounds.
That sounds insane.
That's 6 murders, right? But then if you're talking about for running the first crack organization in New York for 2 years, you would think it could have been 3 times, 4 or 5 times as much that.
Yeah.
So in essence, he was accused of ordering several murders. I don't know if he ever pulled the gun himself.
Okay.
So I don't have any information about that.
All right. Well, he would at one point decided to live more in the Dominican Republic and just have his handlers work everything here in New York.
Which is smart.
Did that ever cause any problems where maybe he wasn't getting the cut he was supposed to, or something funny was happening?
Well, just like in any sense, if you're on vacation, you got a company and you're on vacation, you just can't oversee it the same way. Right? You see what I mean? They want to, I can make phone calls. I can FaceTime you, but when you're that closer to the business, you have more control over it. So, for Yayo to be in DR was smart because he was building another empire of legal businesses there, right? Mm-hmm. At the same time, if something happens to the drug operation, you can't get him. He's already in a country with no extradition treaty to the U.S. And what's interesting is that when Yayo actually was busted, all of my sources say he fled to DR with a fake passport. But actually, some people that worked for him, they thought he was already in DR when it went down. And I honestly don't know how to. I only have my sources to go by, but from what I know, he was in New York City at the time. But they thought he was already in DR.